My friends, let me start with a truth that may shock you. Most women think they know what drives a man. They think love, attraction, or chemistry is enough to keep him committed. But here's the reality. 97% of women are missing the 5 psychological secrets that quietly determine whether a man stays deeply invested or slowly drifts away. Most people believe that the key to winning a man's heart is to shower him with love. They believe if they give enough affection, enough time, enough care, he will naturally feel valued and stay devoted. But the truth is, for most men, love in the form of affection is not the deepest fuel they run on. What actually drives them, what actually keeps them emotionally committed and invested is admiration. A man can be adored, cared for, and even deeply loved. But if he doesn't feel admired, he will feel invisible in ways no amount of affection can fix. Think about it. Love says, I care for you. Admiration says, I see you, and I respect what I see. That distinction changes everything. Men are wired to chase progress, to fight battles, to push against challenges in their lives. And underneath it all, they want to feel that the effort they put in is noticed. When a man hears the words, I'm proud of you, I love how hard you work, or I admire the way you handled that situation, it doesn't just stroke his ego, it reassures him that he is enough, that he is valued not for what he gives, but for who he is becoming. And here's the fascinating part. Many women underestimate how rare this is for men. Most men spend their entire lives in environments where admiration is conditional. At work, they are admired only if they achieve results. In society, they are admired only if they look powerful or successful. Even among friends, admiration is often replaced with banter, competition, or teasing. Very few people in a man's life look him in the eye and give him genuine admiration for his character, his effort, or his growth. This is why when a woman steps into his life and gives him that gift authentically, she creates an emotional experience that he can't forget. Does this mean men don't care about love? Of course not. But if you love a man without admiring him, he will start to feel like a child being nurtured, not a partner being respected. Many relationships crumble because the woman gives love in abundance, attention, affection, care. But over time, she unconsciously slips into criticism, comparison, or focusing on what's missing. She may not even realize it, but instead of highlighting what he's doing right, she constantly reminds him of what he's not doing enough of. Here's the reality. A man who feels unadmired will either withdraw or look for admiration somewhere else. Admiration doesn't require grand gestures or rehearsed compliments. It comes through presence and acknowledgement. When he fixes something in the house, you could say, I love how you always take care of these little things. It makes me feel safe. When he makes a decision under pressure, you could tell him, I admire how calm you stayed when things were stressful. When he shares his dreams, even if they sound far-fetched, you could respond with, I believe in you. To a man, those words are not just kind, they are oxygen. Some women worry, but if I admire him too much, won't he take it for granted? Not if it's authentic. Genuine admiration isn't flattery, it's recognition. It's noticing the effort, not just the outcome. And here's where the psychological secret lies. Admiration doesn't just make him feel good, it makes him want to live up to your view of him. When a man feels admired, he doesn't get lazy. He steps into a higher standard because he doesn't want to lose the respect he feels in your eyes. In other words, admiration doesn't spoil men, it inspires them. This is why men often stay deeply committed to women who make them feel admired, even more than women who simply love them. Love is comforting, but admiration is motivating. Love makes him feel cared for, but admiration makes him feel like a hero. And every man, whether he admits it or not, wants to be a hero in the eyes of the woman he loves. If you take away nothing else, take this: when a man feels admired, He doesn't just feel good about himself, he feels more connected to you. He sees you not as just another person in his life, but as the person who truly understands him, supports him, and sees his worth even when the world doesn't. That is the kind of connection that makes a man choose you, fight for you, and stay devoted to you in a way nothing else can. One of the most common mistakes people make in relationships is judging a man purely by the words he says. Words are important, of course, but for men, words are rarely the truest reflection of their feelings. For most men, actions are where their real communication lives. He may not always say, "I miss you," but if he drives across town just to see you for 15 minutes, that's his way of saying it. He may not tell you, "I'm committed to you," every day, but if he introduces you to his family or makes space for you in his busy life, that's his commitment speaking louder than any phrase ever could. Men are raised in a world where expressing emotion directly often feels risky, even weak, so they learn to show what they feel instead of saying it. This is why so many women feel confused in relationships. They hear a man say something sweet, but then his actions don't line up, and they are left wondering which version is real. The answer is almost always this: believe the actions. If his words are affectionate, but he doesn't, what you're seeing is charm, not truth. If his words are minimal, maybe even clumsy, but his actions are consistent, that's where his heart actually lies. A man who truly cares will prioritize you even if he doesn't have the perfect vocabulary to explain his feelings. This brings up something powerful. Many women say, "He doesn't talk about his emotions. He doesn't tell me what he's thinking." The truth is, he's already telling you through the choices he makes every day. If he remembers the little things you mentioned, like your favorite snack or an upcoming meeting you were nervous about, he's telling you he listens and cares. If he takes responsibility when something breaks down or goes wrong, he's telling you he wants to protect the relationship. If he makes an effort to plan time with you despite being tired or busy, he's telling you where you rank in his priorities. But here's the challenge too often. Women get caught up in wanting verbal reassurance. They want him to say, "I love you," more, or to explain in detail how he feels. When he doesn't, they begin to doubt his devotion. What they don't realize is that for men, saying less doesn't mean feeling less. In fact, the quietest man can sometimes be the one who loves the most fiercely. He just expresses it by what he does, not what he says. That doesn't mean you should ignore the importance of healthy communication, but it does mean you should recognize the language he is already speaking. When a man invests his time, energy, and effort, that's him communicating. Time is the one thing you can't fake. A man can say, "I love you," while texting other women behind your back, but he can't consistently make sacrifices for you if his heart isn't in it. He can compliment you with flowery words, but if he doesn't show up when you need him, those words mean nothing. Conversely, he might not write you long paragraphs or shower you with romantic speeches, but if he is there in the tough moments, carrying the load with you, that's when you know his words are living in his actions. This is why you should pay more attention to consistency than charm. A man's feelings are revealed in patterns, not promises. Promises can be broken, charm can fade, but a consistent pattern of actions tells you everything you need to know about his level of investment. The more you learn to read his actions, the less you'll feel the need to constantly decode his words. At the same time, men feel most appreciated when women notice their actions. When he fixes something, solves a problem, or shows up in a way that required effort, and you acknowledge it, he feels understood. If he takes care of something for you, and you simply say, "I noticed that, and it means a lot to me," it strengthens the bond. Because deep down, men are not looking for applause for their words. but recognition for their deeds. It's how they measure their worth in the relationship. So remember this: when a man loves you, his heart will show up through actions long before his mouth learns how to say the perfect thing. If you learn to value what he does as much as, if not more than, what he says, you'll never again doubt where you stand with him. Actions are not just louder than words for men. They are the only language that truly matters. If there's one truth about men that almost nobody talks about, it's this: men secretly crave emotional safety. On the outside, most men will act tough, confident, or even detached. They'll tell you they're fine, they'll brush off their feelings, and they'll pretend they don't need anyone. But beneath that mask, there's a deep need to feel safe. Safe enough to be vulnerable. Safe enough to share what they're really feeling. Safe enough to admit they don't always have it all together. The reason this matters so much is because, for most men, the world has taught them that showing emotions is a weakness. From the time they were boys, they were told to man up, to stop crying, to deal with problems on their own. So they grow up building walls, hiding struggles, and pretending they are invincible, when in reality, they are carrying the same fears and insecurities as everyone else. The tragedy is, because of these walls, many women never get to see who their man really is. They get the surface version, the strong, silent type who keeps moving forward, but not the deeper version who longs to feel understood. A man will only let that version out when he feels safe, and for most men, emotional safety is so rare that when they find it, they cling to it. Emotional safety isn't about fixing his problems. It isn't about cheering him up every time he's down. Definitely isn't about making excuses for bad behavior. Emotional safety is about creating a space where he feels that if he shows his fears, doubts, or insecurities, you won't use them against him, you won't judge him, and you won't make him feel less of a man. Imagine a man comes home after a difficult day. He doesn't want to talk about it, but you can see the weight in his eyes. Most people would push. What's wrong? Tell me. Why won't you talk to me? That pressure only makes him shut down further. But emotional safety looks different. It's saying, I can tell something's heavy on you. I'm here when you're ready to share. No demand, no judgment, just presence. That presence alone tells him it's safe to let his guard down when he's ready. And when he does, when he finally opens up, how you respond makes all the difference. If you dismiss it, laugh at it, or use it later as ammunition in an argument, he'll retreat back into silence, and it will be 10 times harder for him to be open again. If you meet his vulnerability with patience, compassion, and understanding, you'll find he begins to trust you in a way he hasn't trusted anyone else. This is why emotional safety is not just important, it's everything. A man who feels emotionally unsafe will always keep part of himself hidden. He might be physically present, financially supportive, even outwardly loving, but his soul will remain locked away. On the other hand, a man who feels emotionally safe will bring you into his inner world. He will share his dreams, his insecurities, his doubts, his fears. And that level of openness is what forges an unbreakable bond. Because when a man allows himself to be vulnerable with you, he is giving you access to the part of him that almost nobody else gets to see. That's not weakness. That's intimacy at its highest level. Most men don't even realize they are craving this. They think they just want respect, or admiration, or physical attraction. But deep down, what keeps them committed is the knowledge that they have a partner who won't judge them for being human. A partner who can see the strong side and the fragile side and still love both. When a man feels that kind of safety, it doesn't make him dependent. It makes him devoted. He won't just stay with you. He will fight to protect the connection you've built, because he knows how rare it is. So never underestimate the power of emotional safety. You may think he doesn't need it. You may think he doesn't even want it. But the truth is, it is the one thing his heart longs for the most. And when he finds it with you, he won't just love you. He will trust you with every part of who he is. One of the most misunderstood truths about men is that before they can fully give themselves to love, they have to feel anchored in their purpose. Passion in relationships matters, of course, but for most men, passion cannot fully thrive if purpose is missing. A man's identity is deeply tied to what he is building, what he is striving toward, the mission he feels called to pursue. If he has no sense of direction, if he hasn't discovered his why, he will often feel unsettled in love, no matter how much he cares about someone. This is not because he doesn't value the relationship. It's because deep down, he doesn't yet feel like himself. He doesn't feel grounded in who he is, and that insecurity makes it difficult for him to show up fully for someone else. You may have noticed this before. A man can be affectionate, charming, even head over heels in the beginning, but as time passes, he starts pulling away, not because his feelings vanished, but because he is restless. He may say things like, "I just need to figure my life out," or "I don't know what I want right now." What he's really saying is, "I don't feel aligned with my purpose, and until I do, it's hard to give myself fully to this relationship." For many women, this feels confusing or even hurtful because they interpret it as a lack of love. But in reality, it's not a lack of love, it's a lack of identity. And until a man reclaims that sense of identity, his passion in love will feel unstable. This is why it is so important not to take a man's purpose personally. When he is driven by his goals, it doesn't mean he loves you less. It means his need to build, to grow, to accomplish is part of how he expresses himself as a man. In fact, when he feels supported in that drive, he sees you not as a distraction from his mission, but as a partner in it. And that changes everything. The men who stay deeply committed are the ones who feel that their partner understands this balance, that she doesn't try to compete with his purpose, but instead encourages it. Now, does this mean you should put his goals above your own needs? Absolutely not. Love must be reciprocal. You deserve to feel prioritized. But it does mean recognizing that when a man feels stagnant in his life, it often spills into the relationship. He may become distant, frustrated, or emotionally unavailable. Not because he doesn't care, but because he feels like he is failing himself. And here's the paradox: when a man is thriving in his purpose, he has more to give in love. When he feels fulfilled in his work, his mission, or his calling, he shows up with more energy, more confidence, and more devotion. Purpose fuels passion, and passion fuels connection. For a woman, this insight can be transformative. Instead of thinking, "He doesn't have time for me because of his goals," you can shift to, "His goals are part of what make him who he is. Supporting them strengthens us." That doesn't mean tolerating neglect. It means recognizing that when a man is aligned with his mission, he will naturally have more to invest in you. And when he feels you see his vision and respect it, he will be far more motivated to include you in it. Men are often misunderstood as being emotionally unavailable when in reality, they are simply consumed with trying to prove something to themselves. They need to feel like they are moving forward, building something meaningful, leaving a mark. And once they feel that alignment, they are finally able to rest in love without the constant noise of self-doubt. That's when you get the version of him who is fully present, who can invest wholeheartedly, no longer feels torn between his relationship and his mission. So remember this: passion without purpose fades quickly, but purpose fuels passion for a lifetime. If you want to understand a man at his core, look at what drives him, not just how he loves. When he feels strong in his mission, his love will flow naturally. When he sees that you respect his purpose instead of competing with it, he won't just be passionate about you. He will be devoted to protecting the bond you share as part of the bigger picture of his life. One of the most fascinating things about men is that even though they rarely admit it, they are constantly paying attention to how loyal you are, not just in the obvious ways, but in the small, subtle moments. For a man, loyalty isn't only about staying faithful physically, it's about whether you stand with him when things get difficult, when he makes mistakes, or when he isn't at his best. And the truth is, men test this without even realizing they're doing it. They don't walk around thinking, I'm going to test her loyalty today. But their instincts and behaviors naturally look for signs of how much they can truly trust you. A man might not notice how you treat him when everything is perfect, but he will absolutely notice how you treat him when things go wrong. If he fails at something and you mock him, criticize him, or compare him to someone else, it cuts deeper than you realize. To him, it's not just about that failure. It's about whether you will still see him as worthy when he stumbles. On the other hand, if you show patience, encouragement, or even just stand beside him in silence, he registers that as loyalty. He sees that you don't just love him for his wins. You love him even when he's down. That kind of loyalty builds a bond that most men will never walk away from. These subtle tests show up in everyday situations. Maybe he shares a secret insecurity with you, something about his body, his finances, or his fears, and he notices how you respond. Do you laugh at it? Do you dismiss it? Or do you hold it close and make him feel safe for revealing it? If you handle it with care, you've passed a test you didn't even know you were taking. Or imagine he goes quiet for a few days because he's stressed. He notices whether you assume the worst about him, accuse him of not caring, or whether you calmly give him space while still letting him know you're there. Again, it's a small thing, but to him it's huge. This doesn't mean you should tolerate disrespect or neglect. Loyalty doesn't mean losing yourself or excusing bad behavior. What it does mean is showing consistency in the way you treat him, especially when his life is messy. Loyalty is proven in the storm, not in the sunshine. Men know this deep down, which is why they observe it so closely. They want to know if the woman standing beside them is going to disappear when things get uncomfortable, or if she's someone who can weather the challenges of life together. Here's the paradox: the more loyal you show yourself to be, the more loyal he becomes in return. A man who feels like he can trust your loyalty will invest his loyalty tenfold. He will protect the relationship, defend you in your absence, and commit in ways he never has before. Loyalty creates security. Security allows love to grow without fear. Men don't always have the words to explain this, but their actions reveal it. They will slowly test the waters of your loyalty, and when they're convinced it's real, that's when they stop holding back. Sometimes these tests feel frustrating. You may think, why is he pulling away? Or why is he being distant? But often, it's not a lack of love. It's him watching how you respond when he's not his strongest self. If your reaction shows patience and steadiness, he feels reassured. If it shows judgment or abandonment, he pulls back. Every man wants to know, are you with me for who I am or only for what I can give you? And that is the heart of loyalty. When a man realizes you love him, not just when he's on top of the world, but when he's uncertain, struggling, or even failing, that's when he gives you his deepest level of devotion. Because he knows then, without question, that you're not just there for the good times, you're there for him. And once a man feels that kind of loyalty, he will fight to keep you in his life, no matter what. One of the deepest, often unspoken desires of every man is the need to feel chosen. Not just accepted, not just tolerated, not just good enough for now, but truly chosen above all others. The difference may sound small, but to a man, it's everything. When he feels like a woman is with him because she had no better options, or because he happened to be the safe, comfortable choice something inside him resists, he may still stay, but he won't feel fully alive in the relationship. But when he feels like she could have been with anyone, and yet she wanted him, specifically him, it ignites a fire of devotion that nothing else can replace. This is because beneath all the armor men wear, most of them carry a quiet fear of being not enough. They compete in the world, they measure themselves against other men. They constantly wonder if they're providing enough, succeeding enough, or impressive enough. When a woman looks at him and makes him feel that out of all the men she could have, she chose him. Not out of necessity, not out of convenience, but out of desire. He feels a level of worth that the outside world rarely gives him. That feeling becomes addictive, and it makes him want to hold on to her with everything he has. Think about it this way. A man can sense when he's being compared. He can feel it when he's being treated as the backup plan, safe bet, or the one who's good enough to settle down with because time is running out. Nothing kills his spirit faster than feeling like he's the option rather than the prize. But when a woman shows him, not through words alone, but through her energy, her eyes, her actions, that she values him above others, he feels chosen. That sense of being chosen is what drives him to rise higher, love harder, and commit deeper. Being chosen doesn't mean you have to flatter him constantly or convince him he's perfect. It means creating a space where he feels that your decision to be with him was intentional, not accidental. That you saw his flaws, his struggles, his imperfections, and still said, "Out of everyone, I want you." That assurance becomes the foundation of his loyalty, because if he feels like you picked him out of true desire, he no longer fears losing you to someone better. He doesn't live with the anxiety of wondering if you secretly wish you were with someone else. Instead, he rests in the security of knowing he's not just filling a role, you genuinely wanted him. This doesn't only apply to the early stages of dating, it matters in long-term relationships too. Over time, couples often fall into routines, and men start to feel taken for granted. That's when the subtle doubts creep in. Is she with me because she has to be, or because she still wants to be? Reassuring him of your choice, even years later, keeps the bond alive. A simple statement like, "I'd choose you again even now," can heal wounds you don't even realize he carries. It reminds him that your love isn't obligation, it's ongoing choice. And here's the beauty of it: when a man feels chosen, he doesn't become complacent. He doesn't think, "Well, I've won, so I can stop trying." The opposite happens. He feels inspired to keep being the man worthy of that choice. He invests more, he shows up more. He protects the relationship with greater passion because he knows he wasn't settled for, he was wanted. So if you want to touch a man's heart in the deepest way, don't just tell him you love him. Show him in how you treat him, in how you look at him, in how you stand beside him, that out of all the choices you had in this world, you chose him. When he feels that, he won't just stay. He will devote himself to making sure you never regret that choice. That devotion is what turns a relationship from ordinary into extraordinary.